Hello, I'm Steve Johnson, R&D engineer for GPT-300 Incorporated, manufacturers of Demon Carburation. I'd like to welcome you to this instructional video and start out by thanking you and congratulating you on the purchase of the first newly designed carburetor in over 40 years. Demon carburetors have many unique features that make them the perfect choice for the performance enthusiasts such as yourself, whether it be circle track racing, drag racing, or just getting the most out of your hot rod. These features make the Demon carburetor the carburetor that will give you the edge over your competitors. Let's start out first, though, by making sure that you've selected the proper carburetor for your application. If you look inside your instruction manual that came with the carburetor, you'll find an application guide. Please make sure that the carburetor you have is the one that's needed for your application. If it isn't, put the carburetor back into the box and return it to your place of purchase for a full credit exchange towards the proper carburetor. This video is divided into two sections. First, we're going to discuss installation and some basic tuning. Secondly, we're going to get into some of the unique features of the King and Race Demon series of carburetors. Make sure that along with this video, you have read and thoroughly understand the instruction manual that was included with the carburetor. This will help assure that you get the very most out of your purchase. If there are any questions that you have that are not covered by the instruction manual or this video, feel free to call the Demon Tech line. The number is 706-864-4712. Due to differences in camshafts, compression ratios, intake manifolds, and other parts of the motor, certain tuning may be necessary on your carburetor to get the very most out of it. It should also be noted that selection of a cam outside of the intended application can make engine tuning and carburetor tuning difficult to impossible. Please make sure that you have selected the proper cam to go with your application. One final note of safety before we get started is to keep in mind that when you're working in the engine compartment of your vehicle, whether it be a truck, a car, or whatever, keep in mind the rotating and moving parts of the engine. It's not a good idea to wear loose clothing or have dangling jewelry that could lead to something getting caught and possibly an injury. So let's keep that in mind. All baseline adjustments are set at the factory during the final assembly stages and double-checked during wet flow testing. These settings should allow for the initial startup and warm-up of the engine. Along with flow testing, the carburetor is inspected to verify that it operates smoothly and is free of any leaks. However, to assure safety, it is suggested that you re-inspect the throttle and accelerator pump linkage to make sure no damage has occurred during shipping. Keep in mind, initial startup and warm-up of the engine should be performed with the as-delivered settings for idle mixture screw adjustment and closed butterfly position. First thing that we need to check is to make sure that the linkage did not become damaged during handling or shipping. Carburetor should move freely from the closed idle position to wide open throttle and back again smoothly with no hang-ups. When the butterflies are in the wide open position, they should be, I'll turn it around, they should be near parallel to one another and perpendicular to the base plate. The secondaries should not go over center. In other words, go past wide open. The two biggest rules are never use a carburetor that has linkage that does not operate smoothly or that has secondaries that open beyond the wide open position. When the carburetor is in the closed butterfly position, there should be no slop in the accelerator pump linkage. In other words, as the primary or secondary throttle shafts start to move, so should the pump arm. Any slop in there can lead to hesitation when the butterflies begin to open. Of equal importance is the fact that there still be some play or over travel in the linkage when the carburetor is at wide open throttle. There should be a minimum of 15 thousandths travel left in the accelerator pump linkage with the carburetor at wide open throttle. If there is not, there's a risk that the carburetor linkage could bind, and also it can lead to premature wear in the pump cam and the pump arm. Slop in the accelerator pump linkage is easily adjusted by simply using a 3/8 wrench on the bottom of the stud and a 3/8 driver on the lock nut. Simply turn clockwise to shorten or counterclockwise to lengthen. If you have a little bit of bind at wide open throttle, a quick bend to the cam follower with a pair of pliers can take care of that. Road demons, speed demons, and general competition race demons all feature 3 vacuum fittings in the base plate. The large fitting in the rear and the rearmost fitting on the side are connected to direct manifold vacuum. The front fitting on the side is connected to ported or timed vacuum. Keep in mind that any vacuum fitting that is not in use needs to be capped to prevent a vacuum leak that would be detrimental to the carburetor's performance. Now we've checked our carburetor for any damage that may have occurred during shipping and made a note of all the baseline adjustments, we're ready to install it onto the engine. It's always a good idea to start with the new gasket. It'll help ensure a good seal between the bottom of the carburetor and the intake manifold. Now, this installation is going to use bolts. If we are going to use studs, important note is to make sure that the carburetor slides nicely over the studs. Don't force the carburetor down. If it won't go down easily, check for either a bent or improperly installed stud. We'll go ahead and set our carburetor on top of our gasket. Need to check and make sure that it sits squarely, that it doesn't want to rock. A rocking carburetor is an indication of either a warped intake manifold or a warped spacer. And the problem must be addressed immediately. If you don't take care of that, you're going to have problems getting a good seal between the bottom of the carburetor and the intake manifold. This one's sitting pretty good and square. So I'm going to go ahead and get our fasteners. As I said, we're going to use bolts in this installation. And go ahead and start them. Just want to get them all going down. So they're all kind of started. We can use our socket wrench to pull them down tight. Not tight, but snug, I should say. We'll work our way around the carburetor. Now this used, as I said, bolts with a flat washer. If we had had an installation that was using studs, we would have wanted to use a flat washer with our nuts. Okay, once we've got them all down, nice and snug, I want to go ahead and tighten them down. Good recommendation is about 5 to 7 foot-pounds of torque is what it takes to get a good seal. You want to make sure you use a crossing pattern to tighten them. And there we go. Okay. Now that we're tightened down good against our intake, we want to make sure that the linkage is still free and not bound up. So let's make sure that it goes from closed butterfly to wide open and back to the closed butterfly position very smoothly.